The threat is you not understanding how to use AI and incorporating it with in your business. Because what will happen is your competitors will use these tools and they will have an unfair advantage against you. And that's ultimately how they win. Now, when fucking around and finding out with AI yesterday, and as I have been since this kind of came out, the real moat in your business is not AI, it's data. Data is the most powerful thing. So what you have to think about is the competitive advantage isn't like with use Claude, ChatGPT, Manus, Gemini, like whatever the fuck you want to use. The real moat is actually the data you have in your business. So information about clients, sales call transcripts, buying patterns. This is why if you look at like the biggest companies in the world, they're obsessed about data. Google, Meta, all these companies have so much information on you. Client case studies you have, your own internal playbooks in terms of how to get client results. That's your actual edge, not the $20 subscription to OpenAI or Anthropic. Now, I'm not going to sound like Stephen Bartlett, but I know a lot of people coming onto our podcast and who are not subscribing but still enjoying the content. If I have one small ask for you, it's please hit the subscribe button. It'll help us a lot. So the businesses who are actually like building out their own IP right now are the businesses who are going to win. So you want to think about having everything as your own kind of playbooks and your data. And then ultimately what we have to think about is what's going to be the next wave. The next wave is going to be basically like bringing your own AI. So integrating your AI to basically work with other people's AI, which is kind of fucking freaky. And this is where I think I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I won't say who he is, but he's really big in the YouTube space. And he was saying in 5-10 years, YouTube won't really exist. It will just be like, I have a data pool of information. YouTube will pay me for that information, and it will then basically use its agent to talk to my agent, and then we'll create videos specifically for the users. So this is where you have to think about, like, you're almost not, your business will become having AI agents with information, which is kind of frightening. Now, if you think about the productivity gains, we can come into the next segment of how business is transformed. That's for the plus and for the minus. If we look at Facebook laid off 20% of its workforce, and it increased, I think that saved its, their average employee earns around $400,000. Now it's actually added like $200 billion to the value of Facebook by cutting their workforce down, which is fucking wild in terms of their earnings to price ratio. And this is an example in terms of how like bigger businesses are going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger because they're going to be able to multiply their horsepower without having to have one of the weakest things in the world, unfortunately, which is us as human beings, is because we need to eat, sleep, shit, and all the other stuff we have to do. Whereas AI just goes 24/7 and doesn't ask for getting paid. Now, if you think about this from a competitive advantage, the more you can level up in terms of what you're doing with your business. If you're a coach, creator, real estate agent, whoever you are listening to this, if you think about the input and output equation of what it is that gets you success in your business. If I think about when I was an estate agent that I used to do maybe 200 outbound calls a day. Now, what I have in our business, we just started last week. We have an AI dialer that calls people. It's not even fucking a real person. It's called Chloe. So if Chloe calls you after this video, say hello. So that's wild. We can have this calling 24/7, like really good. And you wouldn't even know it's AI. So this is the difference in terms of having huge amounts of leverage. And I also think where people having lifestyle businesses where essentially you can basically build anything just on your own. And recently we actually had the first person who built a business with one person that sold for $1 billion, which was like a tech AI business, which is wild. He had one employee, and his second employee was actually his brother. And then the last thing I want to try and talk about is the point with AI is to do a couple of things. Is to focus on like dominating your market space as much as possible, really leading into kind of like automation. And then also understanding there's a couple of things you're always going to need in your business and in life. So you'll always need great leadership in terms of companies. It's like you're not going to have AI CEO hold board meetings, or at least not for a while. You need clarity on strategy. So it has to be a human being who has the idea that you're going to go and execute. So you need people who can actually think. And this is what I was just saying to some of my teams. Like the way I see this is essentially maybe in my business, I'll have me, and then there'll be like a head of marketing, head of sales, head of X, head of Y, and then it'll just be them, and they'll just have AI agents doing all the donkey work for them, but they have the intellectual horsepower to know how to utilize these tools and what buttons to press. And ultimately, that is the real skill, because there's a lot of people who are using AI right now who are becoming super fucking stupid because they can't think for themselves. And ultimately, it's still a thinking man's game. So if you can think the right way, think outside of the box and utilize these tools, that's when you get an unfair advantage. So essentially, kind of where does this leave you? With AI, you need to integrate this into your business as quickly as possible. And the biggest mistake most people make is either they're not integrating it, or B, is they're fucking around trying to integrate things that don't actually move the needle in your business. So if you're a coaching offer and you have a coaching business, what books you sales calls, gets you traffic, and makes you money, that's what you want to predominantly use AI for. How can you use AI to reduce the churn in your business? Pick one process, one area, and then get AI working on it, and then just build that out, and then it works, and then move on to the next one. And that's basically the most important thing you need to think about, is that the cost of your intelligence and using your intelligence and putting that to AI is exactly what's going to move you forward in the next few years.
Now, if you enjoyed this clip and you're a coach, creator, or a business owner and you want help in terms of how to scale your business using ads, AI, content, marketing, a lot of things we talk about on the show, then hit the link at the top line of our description in the YouTube video. You can book on a call with us and walk through the whole process, audit your business, and show you where there's huge, huge opportunities for you to scale.